Are you ready to build your very first C# desktop application? Great. Let's dive in together. First things first, we need the .NET SDK. Head over to the official website. I've already placed the link in the video description for you. Go ahead, download it, and just follow the installation steps. You know the drill. Next, next, next. Once the installation is finished, you'll want to check if everything worked properly. There's a simple command for that. If it shows the expected result, then congratulations, you're all set and we can move forward. If not, no worries. Just let me know in the comments and we'll sort it out together. Now let's open VS Code. To make our lives easier, you'll need to install two extensions, the .NET Install Tool and the .NET Dev Kit. Take a moment to add those. They'll help us a lot along the way. Now comes the fun part, creating our first project. Open a new terminal in VS Code and run the command you see on the screen to create a C# desktop application. In just a second, a brand new project will be generated for you. You'll notice a bunch of files appearing. Don't panic. We'll go through what each of them does later, step by step. For now, let's focus on something exciting, launching our very first desktop window. Navigate to your project folder in the terminal, and then run the command displayed on the screen. And just like that, boom, your first C# desktop application window appears. How cool is that? See? Building desktop apps with C# isn't scary at all. We're doing it together, one step at a time. Before we start coding, let's quickly talk about three important files you see in your project. Form1.cs is where we will actually write our logic and design our window with code. Form1.designer.cs is the file that Visual Studio normally uses when you design things visually. We won't touch this much, but it works behind the scenes. And program.cs is basically the starting point of our application, the place where everything begins when you hit run. From now on, we'll mainly be working inside form1.cs and creating our desktop windows purely with code, which is honestly a great way to really understand WinForms. Let's start with our very first example. In this constructor, we are setting up our window's basic properties. We're giving it a title, deciding where it should appear on the screen, choosing its size, and even changing its background color. Think of it like decorating your very first room. You're choosing the look and feel of your app. All right, let's run it and see what happens. Look at that. Our window appears in the center of the screen with the title we chose, the size we defined, and a nice light blue background. Simple, but this is already your very first customized desktop window. Pretty cool for just a few lines of code. Let's move on to a new example. This time, instead of only styling the window, we are creating an actual button inside it. We're making a big, bold button, setting its text, choosing a nice large font, defining its size, and positioning it inside the window. Finally, we add it to our form so it actually appears on the screen. Let's run the program again and take a look. And there it is, a large, bold button sitting nicely in the middle of our window. You've just dynamically created a UI element with C# code, not by dragging and dropping. That's a powerful skill. Let's move on to the next example. Let's take our previous example one step further and make this button actually do something. We're adding an event to our button, which basically means we're telling our program, hey, when this button is clicked, run this piece of code. In this case, when the user clicks, a message box will pop up on the screen with a friendly message. All right, let's run it and see what happens. Nice. When we click the button, a small message window appears just as we expected. This is your first interactive behavior in a desktop application. Let's continue with the next example. Here, we're introducing two new controls, a label and a text box. The label is simply a piece of text on the screen that tells the user what to do, in this case, to enter their name. The text box, on the other hand, is where the user can actually type their input. We're placing both of these neatly inside our window so the interface looks clear and organized. Let's run it and take a look. You should now see a clean input area where users can type their name. Simple, but very useful. Now let's add a button to make this more interesting. With this button, we're giving the user a way to submit their input. When they click it, the program grabs whatever they typed into the text box and displays a personalized greeting inside a message box. It's like your first tiny interactive app that responds to user input. Let's run it and see how it behaves. Great. When you type your name and press the button, the app greets you. That's real user interaction right there. Let's move on to the next example. Now we're working with radio buttons, which are used when you want the user to choose one option from a group. First, we display a label asking the user to choose their gender. Then we create two radio buttons, one for male and one for female, and position them nicely on the form. Only one of these can be selected at a time, which is exactly what radio buttons are designed for. Let's run the program and see how it looks. You should now see a simple and clear selection screen where you can pick one option. Now let's add a submit button to process this choice. This button checks which radio button is selected and then shows that choice in a message box. It's a simple but very common pattern in real applications. Users make a selection, press a button, and the app reacts accordingly. Let's run it and test it out. Perfect. When you select an option and click Submit, the app tells you exactly what you chose. Let's continue with the next example. Here, we're introducing a checkbox. This is commonly used for things like agreements, confirmations, or optional settings. We place a checkbox on the screen with a clear message so the user knows what they're agreeing to. Then we add a button that checks whether the box is ticked or not when clicked. If it is, the app confirms acceptance. If not, it politely asks the user to agree first. Let's run it and see how this works in action. Nice. You can clearly see how checkboxes are used to control program behavior based on user decisions. Moving on to the next example. Now we're working with a combo box, which is basically a drop-down list. We create it, adjust its size and position, and then add several options like different countries. This is a great way to present multiple choices without cluttering the screen. Then we add a button that, when clicked, shows the currently selected item in a message box. Let's run it and try it out. You should now be able to open the drop-down, pick an option, and see your choice displayed, clean and user-friendly. Let's continue with our final example. Here, we're introducing a progress bar, which is perfect for showing loading, processing, or completion status. We place it nicely in the window and add a Start button. When the button is clicked, the progress bar gradually fills up step by step, simulating a task in progress. Once it reaches the end, we display a completion message. Let's run it and watch it in action. And there we go. You can visually see the progress increasing until the task is finished. This is exactly how many real applications show loading or processing to users. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. If you want to go deeper and learn more, make sure to check out the courses section on the channel. If you enjoyed this video and want to support us, don't forget to subscribe and consider joining the channel. Keep learning, keep coding, and I'll see you in the next lesson.